Some people said, I invented 3i Atlas, this object, in order to distract attention from the Epstein files.
Is that what people are saying?
Yeah, and I said, look, this object is the size of Manhattan Island. It's at 4.5 times the Earth-Sun separation. If I was able to put it out there, I would be more powerful than the Pope. And because we're talking about a giant object that you can see from any place on Earth, you can buy online a telescope that will allow you, 0.5 meter in size, that will allow you to see it. It's out there. It cannot be faked.
Have you caught wind of that mysterious celestial body racing toward Earth at a staggering velocity exceeding 130,000 miles per hour? It's the kind of discovery that makes you wonder whether our problems might have a cosmic solution we never anticipated. When Elon Musk shares his thoughts with the world, people pay attention. But his recent statements about this particular phenomenon carry in weight that transcends typical breaking news. They read more like the opening chapter of a science fiction epic than a standard astronomical announcement. The billionaire, entrepreneur, and space exploration pioneer has essentially validated what numerous scientists and researchers have been cautiously suggesting behind closed doors. The enigmatic celestial visitor designated as 3i Atlas represents far more than just another piece of space debris drifting aimlessly through the cosmic void. This discovery has fundamentally shifted the nature of our astronomical inquiries. We're no longer simply asking questions about exploring distant celestial bodies. Instead, we're confronting a far more unsettling possibility. What if something out there has been observing us all along, watching humanity from the depths of space with purposes we cannot yet comprehend? The visitor that transformed astronomy into living science fiction. Within the scientific community, there exists a specific terminology for phenomena that defy conventional explanation: anomalies. These are the outliers, the data points that refuse to conform to established patterns, the observations that demand we reconsider everything we thought we understood. 3i Atlas, however, transcends the simple designation of anomaly. This cosmic interloper represents something far more provocative. It's essentially a celestial challenge to our entire framework of universal physics, a cosmic contradiction that forces us to question the very foundations of our scientific understanding. When this extraordinary object first materialized on telescope displays in July 2025, its appearance didn't merely bend the established rules of physics, it systematically dismantled them. Imagine taking centuries of carefully documented physical laws, the mathematical principles that govern everything from planetary motion to stellar evolution, crumpling them into an unrecognizable ball and launching them into the nearest black hole. That's the level of disruption 3i Atlas has introduced to the astronomical community. Across the globe, astronomers have made profound personal sacrifices to study this phenomenon. They've abandoned regular sleep schedules, neglected personal relationships, and foregone basic self-care routines, all in service of understanding this singular object. This isn't mere professional curiosity or academic ambition driving them. These researchers recognize a fundamental truth. We may never witness anything comparable to 3i Atlas again within our lifetimes. This is a once-in-a-generation discovery, potentially a once-in-civilization event, and the window of opportunity to study it is rapidly closing. The accidental discovery, photographing the impossible. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the 3i Atlas story isn't its current behavior, fascinating as that may be. Rather, it's the remarkable circumstances of its initial documentation, the activities it was performing months before human awareness caught up with reality. During the month of May, several months before anyone realized they were witnessing something revolutionary, a sophisticated satellite instrument was quietly capturing images that would later be recognized as among the most significant in modern astronomical history. This particular satellite hadn't been designed for hunting mysterious interstellar visitors. Its primary mission involved the detection and characterization of exoplanets, worlds orbiting distant stars in other solar systems. Yet through a remarkable stroke of cosmic serendipity, this mechanical observer was positioned perfectly to document the most important discovery in contemporary astronomy. For 3 continuous weeks, this automated eye recorded 3-eye atlas, performing what can only be described as impossible maneuvers within the outer reaches of our solar system. The satellite dutifully collected and transmitted data that wouldn't be properly understood or contextualized until months after the fact, when human analysts finally realized they'd been staring at something that demands a complete rewriting of astronomical textbooks. It's analogous to accidentally filming definitive evidence of Bigfoot while attempting to record your child's birthday celebration, then remaining completely oblivious to what you've captured until months later when you're reviewing old footage and suddenly recognize the extraordinary nature of what your camera documented. The enemy called time, a fleeting opportunity time, has emerged as the primary antagonist in this unfolding story. 3-eye atlas doesn't represent the typical asteroid that might establish a stable orbit around our sun, providing scientists with leisurely decades or even centuries to conduct comprehensive studies. This cosmic visitor is traversing our solar system with the velocity of a bullet passing through tissue paper, moving far too rapidly for our star's gravitational influence to capture or significantly slow it down. When this object disappears behind the sun in October, we lose our observational window forever. There will be no second chances, no opportunity to gather additional data, no possibility of follow-up observations. This hard deadline has transformed 3-eye atlas from an interesting discovery into an urgent crisis for the astronomical community. Every major observatory on Earth has made an unprecedented decision. They've completely abandoned their scheduled research programs to redirect their instruments toward this single moving point of light in our night sky. This represents a dramatic disruption to years of carefully planned observations, experiments that scientists had been preparing for extended periods. Yet the consensus is unanimous. Missing this opportunity means potentially waiting millennia, or perhaps forever, for another chance to study something comparable. The response has been remarkable in its scope and cooperation. Traditional national rivalries that typically characterize the competitive world of astronomical research have been temporarily set aside. Research institutions have emptied their budgets, redirecting funds toward 3-eye atlas observations regardless of the impact on other projects. Individual careers are being staked on understanding this object before it vanishes into the cosmic depths forever. Scientists recognize that their professional legacies may ultimately be defined by their contributions to unraveling this mystery during the brief window we have available. The Outsiders, a family tree of cosmic weirdness before 3-eye atlas, arrived to thoroughly complicate our understanding of the cosmos. Exactly 2 confirmed visitors from other star systems had entered our cosmic neighborhood. Each of these previous encounters taught us that the universe contains far more strangeness than our theories had suggested. These visitors form a peculiar evolutionary sequence of cosmic anomalies, with each newcomer presenting mysteries more baffling than its predecessors. Together, they build toward the revelation that's currently causing sleepless nights throughout the astronomical community. Oumuamua, the nightmare that started everything. The saga began in 2017 with the arrival of Oumuamua, an object that launched this nightmare by categorically refusing to follow any known laws of physics. From a morphological perspective, it possessed a shape that seemed designed to provoke confusion. Imagine someone taking a conventional asteroid and stretching it into an elongated cigar shape, roughly the length of an American football field. Yet, the true horror of Oumuamua wasn't its bizarre appearance, it was the object's passive behavior. What this thing conspicuously failed to do. Every comet or asteroid that approaches our sun undergoes predictable transformations as stellar radiation heats its surface. Ice sublimates directly into gas. Rocky materials release accumulated dust. These thermodynamic processes create the characteristic glowing halos and dramatic streaming tails that make these objects visible from Earth even at enormous distances. This represents basic physics, the kind of predictable cosmic behavior that astronomers have been documenting since Galileo first directed a telescope toward the heavens over 4 centuries ago. Oumuamua violated all of these expectations. It remained completely inert throughout its approach to the Sun, displaying absolutely no signs of heating, melting, or gas release. Observing Oumuamua's behavior was like watching an ice cube maintain its structural integrity in a blast furnace. The scientific community cycled through increasingly desperate explanations, each more exotic than the last. Perhaps it was composed of materials we'd never previously encountered in nature. Maybe it was held together by some form of exotic chemistry that operated under principles we didn't understand. A few researchers, typically after several drinks at conference social events, would quietly wonder aloud if it might be artificial in origin, a manufactured object, rather than a natural one. Some scientists still experience cold sweats when contemplating the implications of what Oumuamua might have been. Its mysteries remain forever unsolved, as the object is now racing away toward distant stars at velocities that make pursuit impossible with current technology. We had our brief moment to study it, and we failed to reach definitive conclusions. IAWN Borisov. The disappointing return to normal eye. Borisov arrived in 2019 and immediately disappointed everyone by acting completely, reassuringly normal. It developed a proper comet tail exactly when predicted. It released gas as it heated up according to established thermodynamic principles. It followed every predictable pattern that scientists had spent centuries meticulously documenting. The only truly remarkable aspect of 2I Borisov was its origin beyond our solar system. It was definitively interstellar in provenance. After the chaos and confusion that Oumuamua had caused, researchers were almost grateful to encounter something that made sense, something that behaved according to established models. It was like meeting an extraterrestrial being who immediately requested directions to the nearest coffee shop in flawless English. Certainly unusual in its origins, but comforting and somewhat anticlimactic in its behavior. 3I Atlas, making its predecessors look like warm-up acts, 3I Atlas has now joined this exclusive club of interstellar visitors, and it has immediately made its predecessors look like preliminary warm-up acts for the main event. This new arrival isn't merely ignoring our established rules of physics. It's performing feats that shouldn't be possible according to our current understanding of matter, energy, and the fundamental structure of space itself. Unlike Oumuamua, which maintained a dignified silence about its mysteries and refused to provide clear answers about its nature, 3I Atlas is practically screaming its strangeness at us through every instrument we point in its direction. It's as if this object wants to be noticed, wants us to confront the implications of its impossible existence. Velocity that rewrites physics, speed beyond comprehension. Speed at which 3I Atlas is moving carries implications that stretch back billions of years, to periods of galactic history that we can only theorize about based on indirect evidence and mathematical modeling. To properly understand just how impossibly fast this object is traveling, we need to establish some context using our most successful space missions, the Voyager probes, still transmitting data back to Earth after decades in the void of interstellar space, represent triumphs of engineering and physics. These spacecraft required nearly 2 full years to reach Jupiter, utilizing trajectories that had been carefully optimized for interplanetary travel. When they arrived, we celebrated these missions as remarkable achievements, pushing the boundaries of what human technology could accomplish. 3I Atlas covered the distance between Jupiter and Mars, a span of hundreds of millions of kilometers, in just 16 weeks. This isn't merely fast in conventional terms. This is fast in ways that suggest origins in stellar environments completely unlike our own solar system. regions of space governed by different physical conditions. The mathematics of its trajectory reveal what astronomers call a hyperbolic path, a term indicating velocity so extreme that our sun's gravitational field cannot slow it down, let alone capture it into any form of orbit. The gravitational pull of our star, strong enough to hold 8 planets and countless smaller bodies in stable orbits, barely registers on 3i Atlas. It's like watching a speedboat cut through an ocean without creating any wake, something that should be physically impossible under normal conditions. Computer modeling and trajectory analysis suggests that this visitor began its journey in regions of our galaxy that formed when the Milky Way itself was roughly half its current age, approximately 5 to 6 billion years ago. We're examining materials forged under stellar conditions that no longer exist anywhere in our cosmic neighborhood. The elements composing 3i Atlas were created in the hearts of stars that burned out billions of years before our sun ignited from its primordial gas cloud. This makes the object essentially an archaeological artifact from an era of cosmic evolution that we can study in no other way. The velocity also creates a disturbing possibility that keeps theoretical astronomers awake at night, staring at their ceiling and contemplating uncomfortable implications. If 3i Atlas is representative of typical interstellar objects, if this isn't some rare exceptional case, then our solar system might be constantly bombarded by these visitors. Most would be moving too quickly for us to detect before they're gone, flashing through our neighborhood like bullets that leave no trace of their passage. We might be living in a galactic shooting gallery where only the slowest projectiles, the comparative stragglers, linger long enough to be noticed and studied. How many more of these cosmic bullets have passed through our neighborhood undetected and unstudied? The answers to these questions would fundamentally change our understanding of material exchange between star systems and potentially revolutionize theories about the origins of life itself. If interstellar objects regularly deliver materials between star systems, then the ingredients for life might be far more widely distributed throughout the galaxy than we've previously imagined. Defied illumination, breaking the rules before anyone noticed, long before anyone suspected they were documenting something revolutionary. 3i Atlas was already performing impossible tricks that violated centuries of established science. When satellite instruments first captured its image back in May, this object was radiating energy with an intensity that contradicted everything astronomers understood about how matter behaves in the cold outer regions of stellar systems. It wasn't just breaking the rules, it was rewriting them in real time while scientists watched. Oblivious to what they were witnessing, comet behavior follows, principles so reliable and well established that scientists can use them to predict exactly when newly discovered objects will begin their transformation from frozen chunks into glowing celestial displays. These cosmic snowballs spend most of their existence in the frigid darkness beyond planetary orbits, where temperatures approach absolute zero and everything remains frozen solid for millions or even billions of years. Only when they venture close enough to receive significant stellar radiation does the warming process begin, initiating sublimation, the direct transformation of ice into gas without passing through a liquid phase. This creates the luminous clouds of gas and dust that make comets visible and spectacular. This transformation has such predictable timing in our solar system that astronomers can calculate precisely when any comet will cross the activation threshold and begin developing its characteristic glow. The boundary lies somewhere around Jupiter's orbit, marking the approximate distance where stellar heating becomes sufficient to begin melting frozen materials. This border is so firmly established and reliable that when newly discovered comets cross it, scientists schedule observations based on formulas developed in the 19th century that still work with remarkable accuracy. 3i Atlas was already blazing with impossible brightness, while still located far beyond this boundary, in regions where nothing should be active or visible according to established models. During the 3 weeks that satellite observations documented this anomaly, the object continued intensifying at an accelerating rate. This wasn't a gradual warming process, it was something else entirely, suggesting that whatever mechanism was driving its luminosity was actually strengthening as it moved deeper into our solar system. It's like watching a match ignite underwater, then burn more intensely the deeper it sinks beneath the surface, something so contrary to known physics that it forces us to question our most basic assumptions about how energy and matter interact. This premature activation provided the first concrete evidence that 3I Atlas was composed of material so fundamentally different from familiar comets that it might have formed under completely alien stellar conditions. The alternative explanation, that it isn't natural at all, remains an uncomfortable whisper in astronomical circles, discussed in hushed private conversations after formal conferences and researchers gather informally at hotel bars. Breaking cosmic law, the tale that points the wrong way as monitoring efforts intensified through the summer months. With more telescopes being directed toward 3I Atlas and more data being collected, the object revealed what may be its most reality-shattering characteristic. It began developing a tail that grows in the wrong direction. This isn't merely unusual behavior or a quirk that requires minor modifications to existing models. This represents a fundamental violation of physics that has left the scientific community scrambling for explanations that don't exist in current theory. It's like discovering a waterfall that flows upward, defying gravity, or finding a magnet that repels iron instead of attracting it. These would be observations that contradict the basic forces governing our universe, forcing us to reconsider principles we thought were inviolable laws of nature. Solar wind creates one of the most reliable phenomena in observable astronomy. Our sun constantly blasts streams of charged particles outward in all directions, creating a stellar breeze powerful enough to alter spacecraft trajectories and strip atmospheric protection from planets lacking strong magnetic fields to shield them. When comets develop clouds of gas and dust through sublimation, this cosmic hurricane inevitably pushes all material away from the comet's core, creating the streaming tails that always, without exception, point directly away from the nearest star. This principle is so dependable and universal that astronomers have used comet tail orientation as cosmic compass readings for centuries. By observing which direction the particle streams point, they can determine stellar positions and directions without any other reference points. Finding a comet tail that points toward its star would be like discovering water that flows uphill or fire that freezes things it touches. The force required to overcome solar wind pressure would need to be immense, so powerful, that no known natural process could generate it, especially not from a relatively small cosmic object. Yet the tail of 3I Atlas appears to be growing toward the Sun, suggesting that this object is somehow generating enough outward pressure to overcome one of the most powerful forces operating in our solar system. The only theoretical explanations involve gas release so intense and voluminous that it creates pressure waves capable of pushing back against solar wind, essentially creating a localized bubble where normal rules don't apply. But this raises profoundly disturbing questions about what kind of internal processes could sustain such extreme emissions over extended periods. What power source could drive this kind of sustained energy output? And why doesn't the object exhaust itself and go dormant as normal comets do? Rewriting chemistry. The inverted comet. When humanity's most sophisticated observational instruments focused their capabilities on 3I Atlas, they uncovered a chemical signature so fundamentally alien that it challenges basic assumptions about how objects form and evolve throughout the universe. The James Webb Space Telescope, the Hubble Space Telescope, and numerous other technological marvels all confirmed measurements that seem to describe an object from an alternate reality, a place governed by different chemical principles than our own universe. It's like discovering a creature that breathes nitrogen instead of oxygen, or drinks acid instead of water, something that should be impossible according to everything we know about biochemistry and the requirements for stable matter. The gas clouds surrounding 3I Atlas contain 8 molecules, of carbon dioxide for every single molecule of water vapor. Read that ratio again because it's almost incomprehensible in its implications. This ratio is so extreme that it completely inverts everything scientists understand about comet composition. Normal comets are essentially dirty snowballs, dominated by water ice with trace amounts of other frozen gases, mixed throughout their structure. Finding a comet where carbon dioxide overwhelms water by such extreme margins is like discovering sand made primarily of diamonds instead of silica, or an ocean composed of mercury instead of water. It violates fundamental assumptions about the available materials during stellar system formation and the processes by which comets accrete from the primordial disk of material surrounding young stars. The carbon dioxide envelope itself has expanded to dimensions that dwarf original calculations and exceed anything previously observed. Current measurements suggest this ghostly shroud extends approximately 300,000 kilometers from the object's center, creating a structure nearly half the diameter of our Sun. Just pause and consider that scale for a moment. A single comet producing a gas cloud that approaches solar dimensions. This massive volume of gas being expelled has forced a complete revision of estimates regarding the solid core's actual dimensions. The scale of the outgassing is so enormous that it suggests a much larger source object than initially calculated. This carbon dioxide cloud isn't just unusual in its chemical composition, its sheer scale represents an outgassing process more energetic and sustained than any comet ever observed in astronomical history. Initial calculations suggested a nucleus, roughly 20 kilometers across, a respectable size but not unprecedented for cometary bodies. This was later revised downward to 11 kilometers as additional data became available and models were refined. However, the enormous quantities of carbon dioxide being continuously released indicate that the true size could actually reach 46 kilometers in diameter. While this wouldn't establish any size records for comet nuclei, we've observed larger ones. The inverted chemistry provides clear evidence that 3I Atlas formed under stellar conditions, completely unlike those that created objects in our solar system. It's a visitor from a place where the rules of chemistry and planetary formation operate differently than they do in our cosmic neighborhood. The metallic paradox, finding thunder without lightning. The most disturbing discovery about 3I Atlas emerged from spectroscopic analysis conducted by Chile's Very Large Telescope, an instrument capable of identifying individual elements in gas clouds millions of kilometers away. Spectroscopy works by analyzing the specific wavelengths of light absorbed or emitted by different elements, creating a unique fingerprint that allows astronomers to determine composition without ever physically sampling the material, what they detected floating throughout. The carbon dioxide shroud has created a mystery that threatens to overturn basic assumptions about how metals form and distribute themselves throughout cosmic environments. This finding doesn't just challenge scientific theories, it demolishes them, leaving researchers scrambling for explanations that don't currently exist. The telescope identified clear, unambiguous signatures of nickel dispersed throughout the object's coma. This was unusual but not unprecedented. Nickel is a common component of many cosmic bodies. However, exhaustive searches for accompanying iron yielded absolutely nothing. Not trace amounts, not minimal concentrations, nothing. Complete absence. This finding violates fundamental principles of stellar nucleosynthesis so completely that researchers initially assumed their equipment had malfunctioned. They recalibrated their instruments, checked their software, examined their data processing pipelines, and ran the analysis multiple times. Every test confirmed the same impossible result: nickel present, iron absent. It's like finding a person's shadow without finding the person casting it, or detecting smoke without finding any fire. These are separations that should be physically impossible under normal conditions, violations of cause and effect relationships that define our reality.